Close your eyes and drift into the world of Pokémon, where ancient titans clash beneath tropical skies and mysteries hide in every corner of a sun-drenched region. Tonight, we journey to Hoenn, a land shaped by primordial forces, where the balance between land and sea tells a story millions of years in the making. So settle in, get comfortable, and let the wonders of this remarkable region carry you into peaceful dreams. When you think of Pokémon regions, each one carries its own unique personality, its own flavor that sets it apart from all others. Hoenn holds a special place in many trainers' hearts, not just because it introduced a new generation of creatures, but because it fundamentally changed how we understood the Pokémon world itself. This was the region that showed us Pokémon weren't just creatures to be caught and trained, but forces of nature so powerful they could reshape entire continents. The very ground beneath your feet in Hoenn was crafted by legendary beings locked in an eternal struggle for dominance. The development of Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire marked a significant turning point for Game Freak as a studio. After the massive success of Gold and Silver, which built directly upon the foundation established by Red and Blue, the development team faced a crucial decision. Should they continue iterating on the existing formula, or take bold risks with new ideas that might alienate longtime fans? Director Junichi Masuda and his team chose innovation, implementing sweeping changes that would define Pokémon for the next 2 decades. The move to the Game Boy Advance represented more than just a hardware upgrade. The new system offered significantly more processing power, allowing for richer graphics, more complex animations, and most importantly, deeper gameplay systems that would have been impossible on the Game Boy Color. The development team took full advantage of these capabilities, creating a region that felt more alive and dynamic than anything players had experienced before in a Pokémon game. The name Hoenn itself carries deep meaning, according to game director Junichi Masuda. The region's name signifies abundant relations, reflecting the core theme woven throughout every aspect of the games. This wasn't just a catchy title. It represented a philosophical shift in how the games portrayed the bond between humans and Pokémon. Hoenn was designed to showcase relationships, connections, and the intricate web of dependencies that bind all living things together in a delicate ecosystem. Every city, every route, every encounter was crafted to reinforce this central idea that we are all connected through invisible threads of mutual reliance and respect. This thematic focus on relationships manifested in countless subtle ways throughout the games. The way NPCs discussed their Pokémon felt more personal and heartfelt than in previous generations. The storyline emphasized cooperation and understanding over conquest and domination. Even the villainous teams, misguided though they were, acted from a place of caring about the world and Pokémon habitats, even if their methods proved catastrophically flawed. This nuanced approach to storytelling elevated Hoenn above simple good versus evil narratives. Geographically, Hoenn draws its inspiration from the southernmost major island of Japan, Kyushu. But here's where things get interesting. The designers didn't simply trace the outline of Kyushu and call it a day. Instead, they rotated the entire landmass 90 degrees counterclockwise. This wasn't an arbitrary decision made on a whim. Masuda explained that rotating Kyushu created better gameplay balance and took full advantage of the Game Boy Advance's horizontal screen layout. The wider viewing angle of the new handheld system allowed players to see more of the world stretching left and right, so orienting Hoenn horizontally rather than vertically made perfect sense from both a design and technical standpoint. The decision to base Hoenn on Kyushu opened up fascinating possibilities for environmental diversity. Kyushu itself is a region of striking natural contrasts. The island is home to some of Japan's most active volcanoes, including Mount Aso, one of the largest active volcanic calderas in the world. Hot springs bubble up from beneath the earth, testament to the geothermal forces churning in the planet's depths. Yet this volcanic landscape is surrounded by vast stretches of ocean, dotted with countless smaller islands creating an archipelago of stunning diversity. These geographical features translated directly into Hoenn's design, where fiery mountains rise beside tranquil seaside towns, where underwater routes plunge beneath the waves, and where the eternal conflict between land and sea plays out in legend and reality alike. The climate of Kyushu, subtropical and warm, influenced Hoenn's character as a region where life flourishes in abundance. Dense forests cover the landscape, providing habitat for countless species. Coral reefs thrive in the warm coastal waters. Agricultural communities take advantage of the fertile volcanic soil. All of these real-world elements found expression in Hoenn's diverse biomes and ecosystems, creating a region that felt grounded in reality, even while embracing the fantastical elements inherent to Pokémon. The naming convention for Hoenn's cities represents a departure from previous regions. While Kanto named its cities after colors and Johto referenced plants and vegetation, Hoenn took a different approach. Nearly every major settlement in Hoenn has a name formed by combining two words into a single compound. Little Root Town, where your journey begins, combines little and root, suggesting humble beginnings and the foundation from which great things grow. The name implies that even the smallest seed can grow into something magnificent, given proper care and nourishment. Petalburg City merges petal and berg, evoking images of a town nestled among flowering gardens. Slateport City combines slate and port, suggesting a harbour built from grey stone. Fortree City obviously references forests and trees. Lily Cove City brings together lily and cove, painting a picture of flowers blooming near a sheltered bay. Moss Deep City suggests depths covered in soft green growth. Evergrande City, the final destination, combines ever and grand, implying eternal grandeur. Each name tells a story, paints a picture, gives you an immediate sense of what you might find there before you ever step through its borders. This attention to naming wasn't just creative flourish. It served a practical purpose in helping players form mental associations with each location. When you heard Fortree City, you immediately understood this would be a place built among the trees. Moss Deep suggested a town covered in soft green growth, peaceful and quiet. Lily Cove painted images of flowers blooming near the shore. These linguistic cues helped create a more immersive world, where names meant something, where words had weight and significance beyond mere labels on a map. The compound word structure also made the names feel distinct from those in Kanto and Johto, reinforcing Hoenn's identity as a unique region with its own cultural traditions and linguistic patterns. Routes in Hoenn break from the numbering system established in Kanto and Johto. Instead of continuing sequentially from Route 48, Hoenn begins fresh at Route 101. This wasn't an oversight or mistake. The gap in numbering served multiple purposes. First, it discouraged players from expecting to travel backward to Kanto or Johto after completing the main story, as had been possible in Generation 2. Second, it mirrored a similar gap in Japan's actual road numbering system, adding another layer of real-world connection to the fictional region. Third, it established Hoenn as its own distinct entity, a region standing on its own merits, rather than simply being an extension of what came before. The route numbering system helped define Hoenn's independence, signaling to players that this adventure would be fundamentally different from their experiences in previous generations. Hoenn boasts more routes than any other region in the core Pokémon games. 34 numbered routes crisscross the land, creating an intricate web of pathways connecting every corner of the region. This impressive total surpasses even the combined Kanto and Johto regions, which share routes 1 through 48 between them. Some of these routes feature dynamic weather patterns that change depending on when you traverse them. On certain days, you might encounter rain showers that boost water-type moves, while other days see harsh sunlight that powers up fire attacks. This weather variety wasn't just cosmetic. It fundamentally altered which Pokémon you might encounter and how battles would play out, adding an element of temporal strategy to exploration. The dynamic weather system represented one of Ruby and Sapphire's most ambitious technical achievements. Previous Pokémon games featured static environments where conditions never changed. Hoenn brought these locations to life by making them respond to time and circumstance. Route 119 might be peaceful and sunny when you first pass through, but return a few days later and you could find yourself battling through a torrential downpour. This dynamism made the world feel more realistic and alive, reinforcing the idea that Hoenn existed as a functional ecosystem rather than a static game map. The Hoenn region represents the first time players experienced a truly three-dimensional world in the handheld Pokémon games. Previous generations confined players to flat, two-dimensional spaces where movement was restricted to the 4 cardinal directions. The Game Boy Advance's increased processing power allowed Game Freak to implement subtle height variations, sloping terrain, and most impressively, entire underwater sections where players could dive beneath the ocean's surface to explore submerged caves and ancient ruins. This vertical dimension added countless hours of exploration as trainers combed both land and sea for hidden treasures and rare Pokémon. The implementation of three-dimensional movement required completely rethinking how the game world functioned. Level designers had to account for elevation changes, ensuring that cliffs and ledges provided interesting navigation challenges without becoming frustrating obstacles. The addition of bikes with special capabilities, able to cross certain terrain types that were impassable on foot, added another layer of exploration possibilities. Every route in Hoenn was carefully crafted to take advantage of these new movement options, creating a region that rewarded thorough exploration and experimentation. Speaking of underwater exploration, Hoenn introduced the concept of double battles to the main series. While previous games featured only one-on-one encounters, Hoenn allowed certain trainers to send out two Pokémon simultaneously, forcing players to think strategically about type matchups and move synergies in entirely new ways. This battle format would go on to become the standard for competitive Pokémon battles. But it all began in these tropical waters, where paired trainers challenged you to consider team composition in unprecedented depth. Double battles required trainers to think about their teams in completely new ways. Moves like Earthquake that damage all Pokémon on the field suddenly carried significant risk, potentially harming your own teammates alongside opponents. Support moves like Helping Hand could boost your partner's attack power, creating devastating combination strategies. Pokémon abilities that affected all combatants, like Intimidate, lowering opponent attack stats, or Drought creating harsh sunlight, gained new importance in the doubled battlefield. The strategic depth added by double battles cannot be overstated, as they fundamentally changed how competitive battlers approached team building and move selection. The Hoenn Pokédex originally contained 202 entries, 135 of which represented brand new species never before seen in the Pokémon world. This massive injection of fresh creatures helped establish Generation 3 as one of the most creative and diverse in the franchise's history. From the adorable grass-type starter Trico and its evolutions, to the bizarre dual rock and grass-type Cacturne, to the elegant dragon-flying type Altaria, Hoenn introduced an incredible variety of designs that would become instant classics. The region's Pokémon reflected its diverse environments, with species adapted to every conceivable habitat, from scorching deserts to frozen peaks to abyssal ocean trenches. Generation 3 introduced one of the most revolutionary mechanics in Pokémon history: abilities. Prior to Ruby and Sapphire, Pokémon were defined solely by their stats, types, and moves. Abilities added a new dimension of strategy and identity to each species. These passive effects activated automatically in battle, providing unique advantages or occasionally disadvantages that made each Pokémon feel distinct beyond mere numbers. Abilities fundamentally transformed how players built teams and approached battles, creating strategic depth that would become essential to the competitive scene. Some abilities provided straightforward benefits. Overgrow boosted grass-type moves when the Pokémon's HP fell below 1/3, giving grass types a desperation comeback mechanic. Blaze and Torrent provided similar effects for fire and water types, respectively. These abilities rewarded players who could carefully manage their Pokémon's health, turning dangerous situations into opportunities for devastating counterattacks. The risk-reward calculation added tension to battles, as trainers had to decide whether to heal their Pokémon or let them remain in the danger zone to access the power boost. Other abilities created more complex strategic situations. Intimidate lowered the attack stat of all opposing Pokémon when the ability holder entered battle, immediately swinging physical matchups in your favor. This made Pokémon like Mightyena and Salamence incredibly valuable for their ability to weaken physical attackers simply by switching in. Speed Boost, exclusive to Pokémon like Ninjask and eventually Blaziken, increased the holder's speed at the end of each turn, creating a snowball effect where the Pokémon became progressively faster and harder to outspeed as battle progressed. Hyper Cutter prevented enemy moves from lowering the Pokémon's attack stat, making it perfect for physical attackers that needed to maintain offensive pressure without fear of intimidation or other attack-lowering effects. Sand Veil increased evasion during sandstorms, synergizing beautifully with Pokémon that could summon sand weather through their abilities or moves. The interplay between abilities, weather, and team composition opened up countless strategic possibilities that had never existed in previous generations. Some abilities carried drawbacks that required careful management. Truant, possessed exclusively by slaking, forced the Pokémon to loaf around doing nothing every other turn. This crippling restriction balanced Slaking's otherwise phenomenal base stats, preventing it from becoming utterly dominant. Players had to build strategies around Truant's limitations, using moves like Encore to lock opponents into safe moves during Slaking's active turns, or switching frequently to minimize the turns spent loafing. Slow Start, Regigigas's signature ability, halved the Pokémon's attack and speed for 5 turns at the start of battle. This represented one of the most severe ability drawbacks in the entire game, turning what should have been a dominant legendary Pokémon into something that struggled to find competitive viability. The lore explanation that Regigigas needed time to awaken from its long slumber provided thematic justification for the mechanical limitation, though many players wished the colossal Pokémon could access its full power more readily. The introduction of Pokémon Natures in Generation 3 added another layer of individuality to each creature. Every Pokémon possessed one of 25 natures, each affecting how its stats grew as it leveled up. Most natures boosted one stat by 10%, while reducing another by 10%, creating distinct personality-driven variants within each species. An adamant nature increased physical attack while lowering special attack, perfect for Pokémon that relied primarily on physical moves. Modest nature did the opposite, ideal for special attackers. Jolly boosted speed at the cost of special attack, while Timid increased speed while lowering physical attack. 5 natures were neutral, providing no stat modifications. Hardy, docile, serious, bashful, and quirky. While these neutral natures might seem inferior to those that provided a stat boost, they prevented Pokémon from suffering the 10% penalty in any stat, which could be valuable in rare circumstances where a Pokémon needed balanced stats across the board without any weaknesses. The naming of natures after personality traits added flavor and helped players remember which stats each nature affected. Bold Pokémon had increased defense, fitting for creatures with brave personalities. Timid Pokémon had higher speed, appropriate for those who prefer to strike quickly and flee. Careful Pokémon gained special defense, logical for cautious creatures. These thematic connections helped make the mechanical systems feel integrated with the game's world and lore rather than arbitrary numbers. The combination of abilities and natures meant that two Pokémon of the same species could play completely differently. A timid Gardevoir with the Trace ability functioned entirely differently from a brave Gardevoir with Synchronize. This individuality transformed Pokémon from interchangeable units into unique partners with distinct personalities and capabilities. The breeding mechanics allowed dedicated trainers to pursue specific nature and ability combinations, creating a deep endgame for players who wanted to build perfectly optimized teams. Generation 3 also completely overhauled how stats worked behind the scenes. Individual values, or IVs, had existed since Generation 1, but remained largely invisible to players. Generation 3 made these hidden values slightly more accessible through various NPC hints and calculations, allowing serious battlers to evaluate their Pokémon's potential more accurately. Effort values, now capped and better balanced than in previous generations, provided players with meaningful choices about how to train their Pokémon, rather than simply battling everything in sight. The weather system received massive expansion in Generation 3, transforming from a minor battle mechanic into a central strategic element. Rain boosted water-type moves while weakening fire-type moves, and made thunder hit with perfect accuracy while reducing solar beam's power. Harsh sunlight did the opposite, empowering fire and weakening water, while making solar beam charge instantly and reducing thunder's accuracy. Sandstorm damaged all Pokémon except rock, ground, and steel types at the end of each turn, and boosted the special defense of rock-type Pokémon by 50%. Hail, a new weather condition introduced in this generation, damaged all non-ice types while boosting ice-type Blizzard to perfect accuracy. Abilities that summoned weather upon entering battle made weather teams viable competitive strategies. Drizzle created rain. Drought summoned harsh sunlight. Sandstream generated sandstorms. These automatic weather effects lasted for the entire battle unless overridden by another weather effect, allowing teams built around specific weather conditions to maintain their advantage throughout extended engagements. The strategic depth this added transformed competitive Pokémon, creating distinct playstyles and archetypes that persist to this day. Hold items, introduced in Generation 2, received significant expansion in Hoenn. Berries became far more diverse, with specific berries curing each major status condition, reducing super effective damage from specific types, or restoring HP under various conditions. Choice Band doubled physical attack power, but locked the holder into using only the first move they selected, creating high-risk, high-reward situations where prediction and game knowledge became paramount. Leftovers, carried over from Generation 2, remained one of the most valuable items for its gradual HP restoration. The region's Pokémon reflected its diverse environments, with species adapted to every conceivable habitat, from scorching deserts to frozen peaks to abyssal ocean trenches. Professor Birch serves as Hoenn's regional Pokémon professor, specializing in Pokémon habitats and distribution patterns. Unlike Professor Oak's focus on Pokémon relationships with trainers, or Professor Elm's research into Pokémon breeding, Birch approaches Pokémon from an ecological perspective. He studies how different species adapt to their environments, how they migrate, how they compete for resources. This scientific approach meshes perfectly with Hoenn's overarching theme of natural balance and interconnection. Birch isn't content to simply catalogue Pokémon. He wants to understand their place in the great web of life that sustains the region. The player character in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald has recently moved to Hoenn from the Johto region. This detail, easy to overlook in the excitement of beginning a new adventure, actually carries significant implications. Your family relocated because your father, Norman, accepted a position as the gym leader of Petalburg City. This makes your father one of the 8 gym leaders you must defeat to qualify for the Pokémon League. The emotional complexity of battling your own father adds depth to what might otherwise be a routine gym challenge. Norman specializes in normal-type Pokémon, and his team can present a serious challenge to unprepared trainers. Your rival in Hoenn is either Brendan or May, depending on which gender you chose for your character. This rival relationship differs from previous games in important ways. In Generation 1, your rival Blue was openly antagonistic, constantly taunting you and putting you down. In Generation 2, Silver started as a Pokémon thief who slowly learned the error of his ways, but Brendan or May simply wants to be friends while pursuing their own goal of completing the Pokédex. They're supportive rather than hostile, friendly rather than cruel. This shift in tone reflected the game's overall emphasis on positive relationships and mutual growth rather than cutthroat competition. The adventure begins in Little Root Town, a quiet settlement in southwestern Hoenn, where time seems to move at a gentler pace. Literally translated, Little Root means a place where small things take root and grow. Your family's new house sits on the edge of town, surrounded by tall grass where wild Pokémon rustle just out of sight. Professor Birch's laboratory occupies a modest building nearby, and it's here that your journey truly begins when you save the good professor from an attacking Poochyena by choosing your first partner, Pokémon, from his bag. The 3 Hoenn starter Pokémon each represent a different strategic approach to battling. Trico, the grass-type wood gecko Pokémon, evolves into the sleek and powerful Sceptile. Its final form embodies speed and special attack prowess, making it an excellent choice for trainers who favor hit-and-run tactics. Torchic, the adorable fire and fighting type chick Pokémon, evolves into the mighty Blaziken, powerhouse physical attacker with access to devastating fighting type moves. Mudkip, the water and ground type mudfish Pokémon, becomes the bulky Swampert, a defensive tank capable of weathering tremendous punishment while dealing solid damage in return. Each starter offers a distinct playstyle, and choosing between them represents one of the most important decisions you will make in your entire adventure. An interesting piece of trivia involves the cry of Torchic in the original Ruby and Sapphire games. Torchic's chirping sound appears to use digital synthesis techniques that evoke the peeping of newly hatched chicks. The distinctive high-pitched quality, likely created through layered tones at different frequencies, immediately communicates the Pokémon's small size and young age. This attention to audio detail extended throughout the entire Hoenn Pokédex, with each new Pokémon receiving carefully crafted cries that reinforce their visual design and conceptual identity. The early roots of Hoenn introduce players to several Pokémon that become staples of many teams. Zigzagoon, the tiny raccoon Pokémon, appears in almost every patch of grass in the early game. Its evolution, Linoone, possesses the pickup ability, which randomly generates items after battles, making it incredibly valuable for resource gathering. Many trainers kept a Linoone in their party throughout their entire adventure, specifically for this item-finding capability, turning a seemingly ordinary normal type into one of the most practically useful Pokémon in the region. Poochyena, the bite Pokémon that chases Professor Birch in the opening scene, represents Hoenn's resident early game Dark type. Its evolution, Mightyena, served as a signature Pokémon for Team Magma and Team Aqua grunts, reinforcing their role as antagonists through the intimidating appearance and dark typing of their preferred species. Mightyena's Intimidate ability made it useful even in late-game battles, as switching it in would immediately lower opponents' physical attack stats. Wurmple introduced an interesting evolutionary mechanic, where its evolution path was determined by hidden values rather than player choice. Depending on personality values invisible to players, Wurmple could evolve into either Silcoon or Cascoon at level 7. Silcoon eventually became Beautifully, a beautiful bug and flying type with decent special attack. Cascoon transformed into Dustox, a bug and poison type focused more on defense and status moves. This random evolution added excitement to training Wurmple, as players never knew which form they would receive until evolution actually occurred. Ralts, the rare psychic type that Wally catches with your father's assistance, became one of the most beloved Pokémon introduced in Generation 3. Its evolution line culminated in Gardevoir, an elegant psychic and fairy type with exceptional special attack and a devoted fanbase. Generation 4 later added Gallade as a branched evolution for male Ralts, exposed to a Dawnstone, providing a psychic and fighting type alternative that excelled at physical attacks rather than special moves. The Ralts line's rarity and early roots made encountering one feel special, rewarding patient trainers with a powerful long-term team member. Shroomish, the mushroom Pokémon found in Petalburg Woods, evolved into Breloom, one of the most competitively viable grass types of its generation. Breloom's grass and fighting typing gave it excellent offensive coverage, while its ability, Technician, boosted low-power moves like Mach Punch and Bullet Seed to surprising effectiveness. The Spore move, exclusive to mushroom-based Pokémon, put foes to sleep with perfect accuracy, making Breloom a premier status spreader and physical attacker. Many competitive teams in Generation 3 featured Breloom specifically for its unique combination of typing, ability, and move pool. Tailo and its evolution. Swellow represented Hoenn's regional bird, filling the archetype established by Pidgey and Pidgeotto in Kanto. However, Swellow distinguished itself through the Guts ability, which boosted physical attack by 50% when suffering from a status condition. This encouraged unusual strategies where trainers deliberately inflicted their own Swellow with burns or poison, using items like Toxic Orb or Flame Orb, turning status conditions from hindrances into massive power boosts. Swellow's high speed and access to powerful flying-type moves made it a legitimate threat in both casual and competitive play. Aaron appeared in Granite Cave's deeper floors, its diminutive steel and rock-type form hiding incredible defensive potential. Evolution transformed it into Lairon and eventually Aggron, a towering armored beast with massive defense and attack stats. Aggron's intimidating design and powerful physical moves made it a favorite among trainers who appreciated its dinosaur-like appearance. While its double weakness to ground and fighting-type moves limited competitive viability, Aggron remained popular in casual play for its imposing presence and ability to tank hits that would obliterate frailer Pokémon. Makuhita inhabited Granite Cave alongside Aaron, this fighting-type sumo wrestler Pokémon, eventually evolving into Hariyama. With massive HP and attack stats, Hariyama specialized in surviving hits and dealing devastating physical damage in return. The thick fat ability halved damage from fire and ice-type moves, covering two major weaknesses and making Hariyama surprisingly difficult to eliminate despite its fighting-type vulnerability to psychic and flying attacks. Hariyama's access to Fake Out, a move that always struck first and caused flinching on the first turn of battle, made it valuable for momentum control in double battles. Skitty, the adorable kitten Pokémon found near Rustboro City, evolved into Delcatty through exposure to a moonstone. While Delcatty's stats didn't impress competitive battlers, its cute design and unique normalize ability that converted all of its moves to normal type created interesting strategic possibilities. The Pokémon contest system, which emphasized appeal and performance over raw battle stats, provided a perfect showcase for Delcatty's charms, making it a favorite among contest participants, even if it struggled in standard battles. Whismur lived in Rusturf Tunnel, its extremely timid nature reflected in its tendency to flee from trainers. This normal-type Pokémon evolved into Loudred and ultimately Exploud, progressively amplifying its sound-based move pool. Exploud's excellent special attack stat and access to powerful moves like Hyper Voice made it surprisingly viable, especially after Hyper Voice received updates in later generations. The visual progression from tiny, timid Whismur to massive, booming Exploud demonstrated one of the most dramatic size changes in any evolutionary line. Marill and Azumarill, originally introduced in Generation 2, gained the huge power ability in Generation 3. This seemingly innocuous ability doubled the Pokémon's physical attack stat, transforming Azumarill from a mediocre water type into a terrifying physical threat capable of overwhelming even defensive walls with super effective Aqua Tail or Play Rough. The addition of the fairy typing in Generation 6 further enhanced Azumarill's viability, but its foundation as a competitive staple began in Hoenn, when huge power revealed its true potential. Wingull populated Hoenn's coastal areas, their cries echoing across beaches and harbors. Evolution into Pelipper provided a bulky water and flying type with solid defensive stats and access to useful support moves. Generations later, Pelipper received the Drizzle ability, transforming it into a premier rain setter for competitive weather teams. But even in Generation 3, Pelipper's combination of typing and move pool made it useful for players who needed a reliable flyer and surfer for their team. Surskit glided across ponds on Route 102 and 111, this bug and water type eventually evolving into Masquerain. The typing change from bug and water to bug and flying upon evolution proved unusual, as most Pokémon maintained their types through evolution. Masquerain's butterfly-like design and compound eye ability, which boosted move accuracy, gave it a distinct identity among Hoenn's bug types, though its mediocre stats prevented competitive success. Nincada represented one of the most unique Pokémon in the franchise. This bug and ground type could be found in certain patches of grass, often requiring patient searching to encounter. Upon reaching level 20, Nincada evolved into Ninjask, a blazingly fast bug and flying type with the speed boost ability that made it progressively faster each turn. However, if the trainer had an empty slot in their party and an extra Pokéball in their bag during evolution, they would also receive Shedinja, Nincada's shed exoskeleton given life as a bug and ghost type. Shedinja possessed one of the most extreme abilities in Pokémon, Wonder Guard, which made it completely immune to all damage except from super effective moves. With only 1 HP, Shedinja lived on a knife's edge, where a single effective hit meant instant defeat, but proper team support and prediction could make it nearly impossible to damage. This binary existence, either invincible or instantly defeated, with nothing in between, created fascinating strategic possibilities and made Shedinja one of the most memorable Pokémon in competitive history. Geodude appeared frequently in caves throughout Hoenn, this rock and ground type evolving through Graveler into Golem. While originally introduced in Kanto, Hoenn's mountainous terrain provided perfect habitat for these boulder-like Pokémon. Golem's massive physical attack and defense made it an excellent physical wall, though its double weakness to water and grass-type moves meant trainers needed to switch carefully to avoid devastating, super-effective hits. Nosepass lurked in Granite Cave, this bizarre rock-type Pokémon resembling a compass or Moai statue. Its nose always pointed north due to magnetic fields, a detail reflected in its Pokédex entries. Nosepass's extremely high defense but equally poor speed created a Pokémon that could survive almost any physical hit, but struggled to deal damage before opponents struck first. Generation 4 added Probopass as an evolution when Nosepass leveled up in specific magnetic locations, though this evolution wasn't available in the original Hoenn games. Zubat infested every cave in Hoenn with the same persistence it showed in previous regions. Despite being a Generation 1 Pokémon, Zubat's prevalence in caves made it feel like a fundamental part of Hoenn's underground ecosystem. Its evolution Golbat, and eventual evolution into Crobat, through high friendship, provided a fast, reliable poison and flying type that many trainers used throughout their adventures. Crobat's excellent speed and access to moves like Brave Bird made it competitively viable despite its frustrating pre-evolution forms. Mawile lurked in Granite Cave in Ruby and Omega Ruby exclusively, this steel and fairy type featuring a massive set of jaws formed from transformed horns. Mawil's Intimidate ability and unique typing gave it defensive utility, though its base stats seemed underwhelming at first. Generation 6's introduction of Mega Mawile with the huge power ability transformed it into one of the most powerful physical attackers in the entire game. But even in Generation 3, Mawile's unique design and typing made it memorable. Sableye exclusively appeared in Sapphire and Alpha Sapphire, haunting Granite Cave's darkest corners. As a dark and ghost type, Sableye had no weaknesses in Generation 3 before fairy types existed, making it a defensive curiosity that could stall opponents through status moves and recovery. Its Pokédex entries described it eating gemstones, which its body then incorporated into itself, explaining the crystals embedded in its form. Mega Sableye, in Generation 6, embraced this concept fully, surrounding itself with a massive gemstone shield. Slakoth represented one of Hoenn's most intriguing evolutionary lines. This lazy normal type could be found in the Petalburg woods, spending most of its time sleeping. Evolution into Vigoroth at level 18 created a dramatic personality shift, transforming the lethargic Slakoth into a hyperactive fighter with excellent speed and attack. However, final evolution into Slaking at level 36 returned to the slothful lifestyle, albeit with absolutely massive attack and HP stats balanced by the crippling Truant ability that forced it to loaf around every other turn. Whiscash swam in Hoenn's deeper waters, this water and ground type combination providing it with only a single weakness to grass, despite the disadvantage of a quadrupled vulnerability. Whiscash's ability to cause earthquakes according to its Pokédex entries tied into Hoenn's themes about powerful Pokémon affecting their environments. While not particularly rushed or specially defensive, Whiscash's typing and move pool made it a solid choice for teams needing something to handle electric types, which couldn't touch it due to ground immunity. Trapinch lurked beneath desert sands on Route 111, its conical pit trap inspired by real antlion larvae. Despite being a pure ground type with mediocre stats, Trapinch's evolutionary path led to one of Hoenn's premier Pokémon, Vibrava, and ultimately Flygon. Flygon's ground and dragon typing, good stats across the board, and access to powerful moves made it extremely versatile. The distinctive bug-eyed appearance and levitating movement gave Flygon a unique identity among dragon types, making it a fan favorite despite competing with the equally popular Salamence for team slots. Cacnea inhabited Route 111's desert, this grass and dark-type cactus Pokémon eventually evolving into Cacturne. The unusual typing combination gave excellent offensive coverage, with grass-type moves handling water, ground, and rock, while dark-type moves covered psychic and ghost. Cacturne's sinister appearance, with its scarecrow-like body and yellow eyes glowing in the night, made it popular among trainers who preferred darker, more intimidating Pokémon on their teams. Swablu floated through routes 114 and 115, its fluffy, cloud-like wings creating an appearance more befitting a normal and flying type than its actual normal and flying typing. Evolution into Altaria added dragon typing, transforming the cute songbird into an elegant dragon dancer. Altaria's ability, Natural Cure removed all status conditions when switching out, making it excellent at absorbing status moves that would cripple other Pokémon. Mega Altaria in Generation 6 became Dragon and Fairy, trading its flying type for Fairy and gaining the powerful Pixelate ability. Zangoose and Seviper represented Hoenn's version-exclusive rivals, with Zangoose appearing only in Ruby and Omega Ruby, while Seviper haunted Sapphire and Alpha Sapphire. The Mongoose and Snake Pokemon's bitter rivalry extended beyond version exclusivity into their Pokédex entries, which described centuries of conflict between their species. Zangoose's normal typing and high attack made it a straightforward physical sweeper, while Seviper's poison typing and more balanced stats suited hit-and-run tactics. Lunatone and Solrock also split across versions, with Lunatone exclusive to Sapphire and Alpha Sapphire, while Solrock appeared only in Ruby and Omega Ruby. These psychic and rock-type Pokémon resembled celestial bodies, their designs inspired by astronomical phenomena. According to legend within the games, Lunatone was discovered at a meteorite crash site, suggesting extraterrestrial origins. Solrock's solar energy absorption and Lunatone's lunar cycle-based power fluctuations made them thematically rich, even if their stats didn't allow competitive dominance. Barboach swam through muddy waters across Hoenn, this water and ground type eventually evolving into Whiscash. The whisker-like barbels gave Barboach its name and appearance, mimicking real catfish anatomy. Whiscash's massive HP pool and useful typing made it a solid defensive Pokémon, capable of absorbing hits while threatening back with Earthquake and Surf. The earthquake-causing abilities described in Whiscash's Pokédex entries connected it to Hoenn's volcanic and seismically active nature. Corfish appeared when fishing in freshwater areas, this water-type crustacean eventually evolving into Crawdaunt. The water and dark typing of Crawdaunt, combined with excellent attack stats and the adaptability ability, created a powerful physical sweeper. Crawdaunt's intimidating appearance, with massive claws and spiky shell, reflected its aggressive nature and tendency to challenge other Pokémon for territory. This territorial behavior, detailed in Pokédex entries, explained why Crawdaunt could only be found in specific locations despite Corfish's relative commonness. Baltoy spun across desert routes and caves, its ground and psychic typing making it unique among its generation. Evolution into Claydol amplified its mysterious qualities, as Pokédex entries described ancient civilizations creating these clay dolls through unknown techniques. Claydol's levitate ability negated its ground-type weakness to ground moves, leaving it weak only to water, grass, ice, ghost, dark, and bug, a manageable defensive profile. Its balanced stats and useful typing made Claydol popular in competitive play, especially for teams needing a ground type immune to Earthquake. Feebas represented one of Hoenn's greatest challenges for completionist trainers. This water type could only be caught by fishing in 6 specific tiles on Route 119, and which tiles contained. Feebas changed. Based on the Dewford Town trendy phrase, players spend hours systematically fishing every tile in the route, hoping to encounter this plain, ugly fish Pokémon. The reward for this patience came through evolution into Milotic, achieved by maximizing Phoebus's beauty stat through Pokeblocks and then leveling it up. Milotic ranked among the most beautiful Pokémon ever designed, its serpentine form and elegant colors making the grueling hunt worthwhile. Milotic's excellent defensive stats, recovery moves, and dragon resistance made it highly valued in competitive play. The Marvel Scale ability, which increased defense by 50% when afflicted with a status condition, synergized perfectly with Flame Orb strategies, where Milotic deliberately burned itself for the defensive boost while using rest to remove the status. Milotic's aesthetic appeal and battle prowess combined to create one of Generation 3's most iconic Pokémon. Castform embodied Hoenn's weather mechanics through its unique form-changing ability. This normal-type Pokémon, given to players by researchers at the Weather Institute on Route 119, possessed the exclusive forecast ability. When weather conditions changed, Castform transformed to match. Sunny Castform became Fire-type in harsh sunlight, Rainy Castform became Water-type in rain, and Snowy Castform became Ice-type in hail. This made Castform a living representation of meteorological phenomena, though its stats remained too low for serious competitive use. Kecleon appeared blocking paths throughout Hoenn, requiring the Devon scope to reveal and battle them. This normal-type chameleon Pokémon possessed the color change ability, which changed its type to match whatever move last hit it. While interesting conceptually, color change often proved detrimental in practice, as Kecleon might change to a type weak to the opponent's other moves. Kecleon's decent attack and access to a wide variety of moves through its move pool made it usable for casual play despite its awkward ability. Shuppet haunted Route 121 and other spooky locations. This ghost-type Pokémon, feeding on negative emotions according to its Pokédex entries. Evolution into Banette created one of Hoenn's creepiest designs, a possessed doll seeking revenge against whoever abandoned it. Banette's excellent attack stat and access to Will-O-Wisp for burning physical attackers made it a threatening ghost type, though its poor defenses meant it needed to strike quickly before opponents retaliated. Mega Banette in Generation 6 gained massive attack boosts and the Prankster ability, transforming it into a premier physical ghost attacker. Duskull floated through routes 121 and 123, its evolution line culminating in Dusclops and eventually Dusk Noir in Generation 4. Dusclops possessed incredible defensive stats, especially when holding the Eviolite item introduced in later generations. The single glowing red eye peering from beneath its bandage-like wrappings created an effectively creepy design. Pokédex entries describe Duskull pursuing misbehaving children, making it one of the darker Pokémon in terms of implied behavior. Tropius could be found on Route 119. This grass and flying-type dinosaur Pokémon featuring banana-like fruit growing from its neck. According to Pokédex lore, constant consumption of tropical fruits caused genetic changes that made Tropius grow its own fruit. This detail suggested fascinating evolutionary mechanics within the Pokémon world. Tropius's dual role as a flyer through the Fly HM and as a user of Sweet Scent for triggering horde encounters made it practically useful, despite mediocre stats. Many trainers kept a Tropius specifically for its utility moves rather than its battle prowess. Chimecho dwelled atop Manpire, this psychic-type bell Pokémon, incredibly rare and difficult to encounter. Its soothing wind chime-like cries and floating movement created an ethereal presence, fitting for the sacred mountain. Chimecho's stats and move pool didn't particularly impress, but its rarity and unique design made it a prized capture for collectors. Generation 4 later added Chingling as a baby pre-evolution, though Chimecho maintained its status as one of Hoenn's most uncommon, non-legendary Pokémon. Absol appeared on Route 120, its dark typing and blade-like horn creating an intimidating appearance. Tragically, Absol's ability to sense impending disasters led superstitious people to blame it for causing those disasters, when actually it tried to warn humans about approaching danger. This misunderstood hero archetype made Absol compelling from a narrative perspective. Its high attack stat and access to a diverse move pool made it viable in battle, while Mega Absol in Generation 6 emphasized its role as a harbinger through its flowing, angel wing-like appearance. Snorunt inhabited the Shoal Cave's ice-covered sections, this ice type eventually evolving into Glalie at level 42. Generation 4 added Frostlass as an alternative evolution for female Snorunt, exposed to a Dawnstone, creating interesting branching paths. Glalie's perfectly spherical form and menacing face gave it a unique appearance among ice types. Mega Glalie gained the Refrigerate ability, converting normal-type moves into ice-type and boosting their power, transforming Explosion and Return into devastating ice-type attacks. Spheal rolled across Shoal Cave and various water routes, this round ice and water-type Pokémon eventually evolving through Celio into Walrein. The thick blubber protecting Spheal from icy waters, as described in its Pokédex entries, explained its impressive defensive stats even in its basic form. Walrein's combination of good HP, defenses, and access to both ice and water stab moves made it a solid, bulky attacker. The Ice Body ability, gained as a hidden ability in later generations, provided gradual HP recovery during Hail, synergizing with Walrein's already impressive staying power. Clample could be obtained through various methods, including underwater diving, this water-type bivalve Pokémon requiring special items to evolve, holding a deep-sea tooth and trading transformed Clample into Huntail, while a deep-sea scale created Gorbis. This branching evolution based on held items created interesting decisions for trainers, as Huntail and Gorbis served opposite roles, the former as a physical attacker and the latter as a special attacker. Both received identical base stat totals distributed differently, maintaining balance between the two evolution options. Relicanth swam in underwater areas throughout Hoenn, this rock and water type representing a coelacanth, a real fish once thought extinct, but rediscovered in modern times. Relicanth's ancient origins, confirmed by Pokédex entries stating it hasn't changed in 100 million years, made it a true living fossil within the Pokémon world. Its high defense and attack stats reflected its durable nature, while Rockhead prevented recoil damage from moves like Head Smash, allowing Relicanth to unleash powerful rock-type attacks without harming itself. Luvdisc inhabited Hoenn's tropical waters, this pure water-type heart-shaped Pokémon associated with romantic love. Trainers often gave Luvdisc to people they cared about as tokens of affection, according to in-game lore. While Luvdisc's stats remained disappointingly low, preventing any serious competitive use, its adorable design and association with positive emotions made it memorable. The heart scale item, often held by wild Luvdisc, provided valuable currency for the move Relearner, giving Luvdisc practical utility for trainers, even if they never battled with one. Bagon lived in a small cave near Meteor Falls. This dragon-type's dream of flying reflected in its desperate attempts to launch itself off cliffs despite lacking wings. The determination described in Bagon's Pokédex entries made its eventual evolution into the winged salamence especially satisfying. Bagon's evolution line required patience, as it didn't evolve into Shelgon until level 30, and Salamence didn't emerge until level 50. This long evolution period tested trainers' commitment, rewarding them with one of the most powerful non-legendary dragon types in Generation 3. Salamence's excellent attack, decent speed, and access to Dragon Dance made it a fearsome sweeper. After a single Dragon Dance boost increased both attack and speed, Salamence became difficult to revenge kill while dealing massive damage with Dragon Claw and Earthquake. Intimidate, as its primary ability, helped Salamence switch into physical attackers more safely. Mega Salamence in Generation 6 gained the Aerolate ability and a massive speed boost, cementing its place as one of the premier dragon types across all generations. Beldum could be obtained as a gift from Stephen Stone after becoming champion, this steel and psychic type eventually evolving into Metagross. The rarity of Beldum, combined with its incredibly limited move pool, consisting only of Takedown in Generation 3, made training it frustratingly difficult. However, evolution into Metang at level 20 provided access to more moves, and final evolution into Metagross at level 45 created one of the most powerful Pokémon in the entire generation. Metagross's pseudo-legendary status, with a base stat total of 600 matching other powerful Pokémon like Dragonite and Tyranitar, reflected its power level. The Steel and Psychic typing provided excellent resistances, while Clear Body prevented stat drops from moves like Intimidate or Sticky Web. Metagross's equally distributed stats made it versatile, capable of running physical, special, or mixed attack sets. Mega Metagross gained tough claws and massive attack and speed boosts, transforming it into an unstoppable physical juggernaut that defined Generation 6's competitive metagame. Oldale Town, just north of Littleroot, serves as your introduction to civilization in Hoenn. The town is so small, it doesn't even have a Pokémon Center or Pokemart yet. Instead, a shop clerk gives you a quick tour and explains the basics of Hoenn society. This tutorial town establishes the gentle learning curve that characterizes the early game, giving players time to acclimate to the new region and its mechanics before throwing them into more challenging situations. The northern route, leading from Oldale to Petalburg, passes through patches of tall grass where players encounter their first wild Pokémon, beginning the timeless cycle of battling, catching, and training that defines the Pokémon experience. Petalburg City, home to your father Norman's gym, feels larger and more developed than the small towns you've passed through. Wally, a sickly boy who dreams of becoming a trainer despite his frailty, lives here with his family. Your father helps Wally catch his first Pokémon, a Ralts, in a touching scene that demonstrates Norman's compassion and teaching philosophy. Wally's journey parallels your own throughout the game. He starts weak and uncertain, but grows stronger with each encounter, eventually becoming one of the most challenging opponents you'll face in Victory Road. His character arc reinforces Hoenn's themes about the transformative power of bonds between trainers and Pokémon. Moving eastward brings you to Rustboro City, Hoenn's industrial heart, where the Devon Corporation has established its headquarters. Devon Corporation manufactures a wide variety of Pokémon-related products, from Pokeballs to healing items to technological devices that make a trainer's life easier. The company's president, Mr. Stone, plays a significant role in the story, eventually revealed to be the father of Stephen Stone, Hoenn's Pokémon League champion. This family connection between corporate power and Pokémon mastery adds layers of world building that make Hoenn feel like a living, breathing place where different aspects of society interconnect in realistic ways. Roxanne leads the Rustboro City Gym, specializing in rock-type Pokémon. As the first gym leader most players challenge, Roxanne presents an appropriate level of difficulty while still testing basic battling skills. Her team centers around Nosepass in Ruby and Sapphire, or a more diverse roster in Emerald. Defeating Roxanne earns you the Stone Badge and TM39, Rock Tomb, a solid rock-type move that also lowers the opponent's speed. This combination of immediate reward and long-term utility through the technical machine teaches players that gym victories provide both symbolic achievement and practical benefit. North of Rustboro lies Petalburg Woods, a shadowy forest where sunlight filters through dense canopy in dappled patterns. Wild shroomish hop through the undergrowth, while Wurmple dangle from branches overhead. Team Aqua or Team Magma makes their first appearance here, depending on which version you're playing, setting up the region's central conflict. A Devon researcher is being harassed by Team Grunts who want to steal important papers, and you intervene to drive them off. This early encounter with the game's antagonist organization foreshadows the much larger conflict to come, when these teams will attempt to reshape the world itself using legendary Pokémon. Dewford Town occupies a small island southwest of the mainland, accessible only by boat from Slateport City. The town has a strange obsession with trendy phrases that change constantly, reflecting the fickleness of popular culture. This quirky detail, easy to overlook, actually serves a gameplay function through the trendy phrase mechanics that were more fully implemented in the Japanese versions of the games. Brawly, the fighting-type gym leader, trains on the beach here, his team built around Pokémon that embody physical strength and discipline. His gym employs a puzzle, where flashing floor panels must be navigated in darkness, a clever metaphor for finding your way through challenges when you can't see the full picture. Slateport City bustles with activity as Hoenn's primary port town. Ships arrive and depart constantly, their horns echoing across the harbor. The Slateport Market offers unique items and services, while the Pokémon Fan Club provides a place for enthusiasts to share their love of particular species. Most significantly, the Oceanic Museum houses exhibits about marine life and sea-based Pokémon, connecting directly to Hoenn's maritime character. The museum becomes the site of a Team Aqua or Team Magma raid, forcing you to confront these criminal organizations more directly as their plans begin to unfold. Captain Stern, a renowned oceanographer, seeks the submarine Explorer 1 to study underwater ruins, unknowingly providing the very tool the villainous teams need to reach the legendary Pokémon sleeping beneath the waves. Mauville City sits at the crossroads of Hoenn, with routes extending in all four cardinal directions. This central position makes Mauville feel like the beating heart of the region, the place where all paths converge and diverge. Watson, the jovial electric-type gym leader, has devoted his life to expanding Mauville's infrastructure. His dream of creating a fully indoor city takes shape in the remakes, where Mauville undergoes massive renovation to become a towering complex of shops, apartments, and entertainment venues. The Game Corner operates here in the original games, offering slot machines and prizes for those willing to test their luck. New Mauville, an abandoned power plant, accessible through a side quest, demonstrates the potential dangers of advanced technology when not properly maintained. Moving north from Mauville brings you to Verdanturf Town, a peaceful settlement known for its clean air and healthy environment. The town's location near Mont Chimney protects it from the volcanic ash that sometimes falls on neighboring areas. Local wind patterns sweep away any potentially harmful particles, making Verdanturf an ideal place for people with respiratory sensitivities. Wally's family moves here hoping the fresh air will improve his health, and indeed, the next time you meet him, he seems stronger and more confident. This detail reinforces how environment affects well-being, tying back to the region's ecological themes. Route 111 stretches north toward Falabor Town, but the path is initially blocked by ash falling from Mont Chimney. The desert area in the southern portion of this route contains the desert ruins, one of 3 sealed chambers that house the legendary golems. These ancient structures, covered in mysterious symbols and requiring specific actions to unlock, add an element of archaeological mystery to the region. The desert itself teems with ground and rock-type Pokémon adapted to harsh, arid conditions. Sandstorms whip across the dunes, reducing visibility and damaging Pokémon each turn unless they possess specific abilities or types that grant immunity. Falabor Town rests in the shadow of Mont Chimney, its soil enriched by volcanic ash that makes the area perfect for agriculture. Farmers work the fertile fields, while researchers study the unique properties of the ash itself. Professor Cosmo, a meteorite expert, lives here and becomes entangled in Team Magma or Team Aqua's schemes when they steal a meteorite he was studying. The fossil maniac's house sits on the outskirts of town, and his obsessive digging creates the desert underpass, accessible only after becoming champion. This hidden area contains the second fossil from the desert, rewarding thorough exploration with rare Pokémon. Mont Chimney looms over the landscape, its peak constantly smoldering with the threat of eruption. A cable car provides access to the summit, where Team Magma or Team Aqua has established a temporary base around a meteorite that crashed there in ancient times. The team's leader believes the meteorite's energy can awaken the legendary Pokémon they seek, demonstrating their willingness to exploit any resource to achieve their goals. The battle atop Mount Chimney, with the active crater bubbling below, creates a dramatic setting that emphasizes the high stakes involved. Defeating the villains here temporarily thwarts their plans, but doesn't stop their ultimate objective. Jagged Pass descends the southern slope of Mount Chimney in a series of steep, rocky ledges. Gravity pulls you downward along one-way jumps, making the descent quick, but preventing easy return to higher elevations. This clever level design forces players to commit to their path, unable to second-guess or backtrack without navigating all the way around the mountain again. At the base of Jagged Pass lies Laveridge Town, famous throughout Hoenn for its natural hot springs. The town's Pokémon Center even includes access to these therapeutic waters, allowing trainers to soak away their fatigue after challenging mountain trails. Flannery, the Fire-type gym leader, presides over the Laveridge Gym with fierce determination. As the granddaughter of one of the Elite Four, Flannery feels pressure to live up to her family's reputation. Her gym's puzzle involves invisible walls created by heat distortion, forcing trainers to memorize paths or experiment through trial and error. Flannery's team revolves around Pokémon that thrive in extreme heat, their fire-type moves boosted by the intense temperature within the gym. Defeating her earns the Heat Badge and demonstrates your ability to withstand the most scorching challenges Hoenn can offer. The story of the legendary Pokémon Groudon and Kyogre forms the mythological heart of Hoenn. According to ancient legend, these two colossal beings shaped the region in the distant past through their titanic conflict. Groudon, the continent Pokémon, possessed the power to create land, raising mountains from the sea and expanding the terrestrial domain with every step. Its body radiated such intense heat that it could evaporate entire lakes, turning lush valleys into barren deserts. Groudon represented the primal force of Earth itself, unyielding and eternal. Kyogre, the sea basin Pokémon, embodied the opposite principle. It commanded the oceans, summoning torrential rains and tidal waves that could swallow continents whole. Where Groudon brought drought, Kyogre brought deluge. Its presence turned clear skies grey and calm waters into churning maelstroms. Kyogre represented the primal force of water, fluid and ever-changing, wearing away even the mightiest stone through patient persistence. These two legendary beings clashed for eons, their battle shaking the foundations of the world. When Groudon raised new land, Kyogre flooded it. When Kyogre expanded the seas, Groudon evaporated them. The conflict seemed endless, locked in eternal stalemate, with neither side gaining lasting advantage. The collateral damage from their struggle threatened to destroy all life in Hoenn, caught between extreme drought and catastrophic flooding with no middle ground where balanced ecosystems could flourish. Enter Rayquaza, the sky-high Pokémon. This emerald serpent dwelled in the ozone layer far above the world, watching the conflict unfold below with growing concern. Unlike Groudon and Kyogre, who were driven by instinct to expand their respective domains, Rayquaza possessed something closer to wisdom or purpose. It understood that unchecked growth in any direction led to destruction, that balance was essential for life to thrive. When the battle between land and sea reached a crescendo that threatened to tear Hoenn apart, Rayquaza descended from the heavens. The sight of Rayquaza streaking down from the upper atmosphere must have been magnificent and terrifying. Its body glowed with stored atmospheric energy, while its roar echoed across land and sea alike. Rayquaza's arrival forced Groudon and Kyogre to cease their eternal struggle. Through displays of overwhelming power, through manipulation of weather systems beyond even their considerable control, Rayquaza compelled the two titans to return to their slumber. Groudon retreated deep into the earth, entering a dormant state in a magma chamber far beneath Mount Chimney. Kyogre descended to an undersea cavern in the darkest depths of the ocean trench, and Rayquaza returned to the sky, ever vigilant for signs that the ancient conflict might resume. This creation myth provides the foundation for understanding Hoenn's geography and ecology. The region exists in the delicate balance Rayquaza enforced, with roughly equal portions of land and sea. The abundance of water routes and diving spots reflects Kyogre's influence, while the numerous mountain ranges and volcanic areas show Groudon's mark. Every aspect of Hoenn's landscape tells the story of this primordial conflict and the fragile peace that followed. Team Magma and Team Aqua represent modern echoes of this ancient struggle. Each organization believes they can awaken the legendary Pokémon and use its power to reshape Hoenn according to their vision. Team Magma, in Pokémon Ruby and Omega Ruby, seeks to expand the land using Groudon's power. Their leader Maxi believes that human civilization needs more space to grow, that the abundance of water in Hoenn limits progress and development. He sees Groudon not as a dangerous force of nature, but as a tool for human advancement, a means to create the paradise he envisions. Team Aqua, in Pokémon Sapphire and Alpha Sapphire, pursues the opposite goal. Their leader Archie wants to expand the sea using Kyogre's power, believing that humanity has encroached too far on natural habitats. He sees Pokémon losing their homes to human development and views expanding the ocean as the solution. Like Maxi, Archie believes he can control the legendary Pokémon, that he can harness its power for good without risk of catastrophic consequences. Both leaders are wrong, of course. The game's central conflict emerges from their hubris, their belief that ancient forces beyond human comprehension can be directed and controlled, like ordinary Pokémon. When Maxi awakens Groudon, the creature doesn't follow orders or listen to reason. It simply does what its nature compels, radiating heat and evaporating moisture in an expanding circle of devastation. Similarly, when Archie awakens Kyogre, it summons rainstorms and rising seas without regard for human intentions or desires. The legendary Pokémon aren't tools to be used. They're elemental forces given physical form, as impossible to control as you might command the wind or the tide. The player's role in this crisis positions you as a mediator, someone who must restore the balance that the villainous teams disrupted. In Ruby and Sapphire, you confront the awakened legendary Pokémon directly, either defeating or capturing it to end the crisis. Emerald expanded the narrative by requiring you to awaken Rayquaza and bring it to Sutopolis City, where it can force Groudon and Kyogre back to sleep through its unique position in the legendary trio's hierarchy. The Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire remakes expanded this storyline even further through the introduction of primal reversion. This mechanic reveals that Groudon and Kyogre, encountered by players in the original games, were merely shadows of their true forms. In ancient times, these Pokémon existed as primal Groudon and primal Kyogre, beings of incomprehensible power that dwarf their modern incarnations. The red orb and blue orb, artifacts created by ancient humans, contain the key to unlocking these primal forms, restoring the legendary Pokémon to their original might. Primal Groudon gains the fire typing, transforming it into a ground and fire-type Pokémon that embodies Magma itself. Its ability, Desolate Land, creates harsh sunlight so intense that it cannot be overridden by other weather conditions, and water-type moves fail completely in its presence. This represents the ultimate expression of drought, conditions where water cannot exist in liquid form. Primal Kyogre becomes an even more powerful water type. Its ability, Primordial Sea, creating heavy rain that nullifies fire-type moves. The ocean's dominance becomes absolute, drowning flame before it can ignite. These primal forms required a new solution. Mega Evolution, introduced in Generation 6, provided the answer. Rayquaza possesses a unique ability among legendary Pokémon. It can Mega Evolve without requiring a held Mega Stone, instead transforming when it knows the move Dragon Ascent. This distinction reinforces Rayquaza's special status, its role as arbiter between the forces of land and sea. Mega Rayquaza's ability, Delta Stream, creates a mysterious air current that weakens attacks super effective against flying types, protecting Rayquaza from the very moves that would normally threaten it. The legendary Golem trio represents another layer of Hoenn's ancient history. Regirock, Regis, and Registeel were sealed in 3 different ruins scattered across the region, accessible only by solving puzzles recorded in Braille. This choice of Braille as the cipher language was deliberate and meaningful. It ensured that players would need to learn something about accessibility and communication methods used by visually impaired individuals, subtly educating them while preserving the mystery and challenge of finding these legendary Pokémon. Regirock, the Rock Peak Pokémon, dwells in the desert ruins on Route 111. Its body consists of rocks from all over the world, gathered and assembled through unknown means. If damaged in battle, Regirock can repair itself by gathering nearby stones, making it nearly impossible to permanently injure. The pattern of 7 dots on its face resembles an H when viewed head-on, sparking countless theories about what this might represent. Regis inhabits the island cave on Route 105. This iceberg Pokémon formed from Antarctic ice during an ice age, and its body cannot be melted even by magma. The temperature around Regis drops to -328 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to freeze air itself into crystalline structures. The dots on Regis's face form a plus-sign pattern, though any symbolic meaning behind this design remains speculative. Registeel makes its home in the ancient tomb on Route 120. No known metal matches the material comprising Registeel's body, leading researchers to speculate it might be extraterrestrial in origin or forged through processes lost to history. The hollow space inside Registeel has puzzled scientists for generations. The dots on its face create a pattern reminiscent of a hexagon, though theories about its significance vary wildly. These three legendary golems share several characteristics. Each stands approximately 6 feet tall, weighs roughly the same regardless of the vastly different materials comprising their bodies, and possesses the ability Clear Body, which prevents other Pokémon from lowering their stats. They learn nearly identical movesets at the same levels, suggesting a common origin or purpose. Their typing covers rock, ice, and steel. Some fans have theorized these materials might represent different eras of human civilization, the Stone Age, Ice Age, and Iron Age respectively, though this interpretation isn't explicitly confirmed in the games. The legend connecting the Golem trio tells of Regigigas, the colossal Pokémon said to have shaped the continents in the distant past. According to myth, Regigigas towed land masses into their current positions using ropes, though what material could withstand the forces involved remains unclear. After completing its continental rearrangement, Regigigas crafted Regirock from rocks, Regis from glacial ice, and Registeel from Magma, creating these three servants in its own image to serve as guardians of important locations. Eventually, humans grew to fear Regigigas's tremendous power. They sealed it away in Snow Point Temple in the Sinnoh region, far from its Hoenn creations. The three golems sealed themselves in Hoenn's ruins, possibly to protect ancient knowledge or prevent their power from being misused. The use of Braille as the cipher language for these puzzles was a deliberate design choice. This could suggest the game designers wanted players to engage with alternative communication methods, though whether this represents an intentional thematic element about accessibility or simply added to the mystery remains open to interpretation. The Weather Institute sits on Route 119, its advanced equipment monitoring meteorological patterns across Hoenn. This facility plays a crucial role in the storyline when Team Magma or Team Aqua raids it, seeking to understand and eventually manipulate weather systems to support their plans for awakening the legendary Pokémon. The scientists working here provide valuable information about how Hoenn's climate typically functions and how catastrophically it has been disrupted when Groudon or Kyogre awakens. Fortree City represents one of Hoenn's most unique settlements. The entire town, with the exception of the Pokémon Center, Pokemart, and Gym, exists in the canopy layer of a massive forest. Wooden walkways connect tree houses built into the ancient trees, creating a community that lives in harmony with its environment rather than clearing it for construction. Winona, the flying-type gym leader, perfectly embodies this aerial perspective. Her team, consisting of Pokémon that navigate Fortree's vertical architecture with ease. A Kecleon blocks the route east of Fortree, requiring the Devon scope to reveal and battle it. This invisible Pokémon, a normal type with the ability to change colors, matching its surroundings, represents an interesting challenge that can't be bypassed through standard progression. Once you obtain the Devon scope from Steven after dealing with Team Magma or Team Aqua at Manpire, you can reveal the Kecleon and continue your journey eastward toward the coast. Lily Cove City sprawls along the eastern shore, its economy built on maritime trade and tourism. The massive Lily Cove department store rises multiple stories high, offering more merchandise than any other single location in Hoenn. The contest hall here hosts master rank Pokémon contests in Ruby and Sapphire, while Emerald consolidates all contest ranks in Lily Cove. The Pokémon Fan Club operates a branch here, and the Cove Lily Motel provides lodging for weary travelers. Manpire towers on a peninsula south of Lily Cove, serving as Hoenn's primary burial ground for Pokémon. The mountain is sacred, its summit housing a shrine where the red orb and blue orb were kept for safekeeping by generations of caretakers. The mountain's lower floor contain graves and memorials, while fog shrouds the upper levels in an ethereal atmosphere. Ghost-type Pokémon frequent this location, drawn by the spiritual energy concentrated here. Team Magma or Team Aqua raids Manpire, stealing the orb they need to control the legendary Pokémon. This violation of sacred ground represents the most serious escalation of their criminal activities, showing they'll stop at nothing to achieve their goals. The elderly couple maintaining the shrine cannot prevent the theft, and it falls to you to pursue the villains before they can complete their plan. The Magma hideout, or Aqua hideout, depending on version, contains the team's secret bases where they prepare for their final operation. These hidden facilities showcase the organization's resources and dedication, with elaborate security systems and numerous grunts guarding the approach to the leader's chamber. Infiltrating these bases requires solving puzzles and defeating multiple trainers in succession, testing your stamina and team depth. The submarine theft from Slateport's harbor provides Team Magma or Team Aqua with transportation to the legendary Pokémon's resting place. This high-seas chase adds urgency to the narrative, creating a ticking clock scenario where you must act quickly to prevent catastrophe. Following the submarine leads you to the seafloor cavern, an underwater cave accessible only by using dive in the deepest trench of Route 128. The seafloor caverns puzzle involves navigating strong underwater currents that push you in specific directions. Reaching the inner chambers requires understanding the current patterns and using them strategically rather than fighting against them constantly. Given Hoenn's themes about human relationships with nature, this puzzle design could be seen as reinforcing the idea of working with natural forces rather than against them, a lesson the villainous teams never learned. When Groudon or Kyogre awakens, the world begins to change immediately. In Ruby, intense sunlight bakes the region, drying up water sources and threatening Pokémon habitats. In Sapphire, endless rain falls, causing floods and threatening to submerge landmasses. These catastrophic weather patterns affect random battles, making certain types stronger while weakening others. The visual effect of harsh sunlight or heavy rain permeates every area, driving home that something terrible is happening on a global scale. Sootopolis City, built in the crater of an extinct volcano, becomes the epicenter of the crisis. The city is completely inaccessible until you surf into the underwater cave entrance, emerging in the caldera lake that fills the crater's floor. The Cave of Origin, located at the northern edge of the city, serves as the legendary Pokemon's final sanctuary. Stephen Stone and Wallace, Sootopolis' gym leader, meet you here to explain the situation and provide guidance. In Ruby and Sapphire, you must enter the Cave of Origin and confront the legendary Pokemon yourself. The dungeon is simple but atmospheric, its depths echoing with the power concentrated there. Reaching the innermost chamber reveals Groudon or Kyogre at level 45, allowing you to battle and potentially capture one of the most powerful Pokemon in existence. Once the legendary Pokemon is dealt with, either through capture or defeat, the weather returns to normal and the crisis is averted. Emerald version expanded this sequence significantly. In that game, both Groudon and Kyogre awaken, their simultaneous presence creating a cataclysmic conflict. Wallace, elevated to champion in Emerald, knows the solution lies with Rayquaza, but needs your help reaching the Sky Pillar. This ancient tower, located northeast of Pacific Town, has stood for millennia as a monument to Rayquaza. Reaching the summit requires navigating crumbling floors that collapse when you step on them, creating a nerve-wracking challenge where one wrong step sends you plummeting back down. At the Sky Pillar's peak, Rayquaza rests in waiting. You must battle and capture it at level 70, then return to Sootopolis City. Rayquaza's arrival creates one of the most spectacular sequences in the entire Pokémon franchise as the sky-high Pokémon descends to quell the conflict between Groudon and Kyogre, forcing both back to slumber through its superior power and authority. Only after Rayquaza restores balance can you challenge Wallace's gym and proceed to the Pokémon League. Wallace specializes in water-type Pokémon. His gym, featuring ice-based sliding puzzles that require careful planning to solve. As a master coordinator and gym leader, Wallace embodies the aesthetic ideal that many trainers aspire to, his team combining battle prowess with elegant movesets. In Emerald, Wallace's role shifts to champion, with Hoenn, his mentor, taking over the Sootopolis gym. This change provides narrative depth while offering players a different challenge, depending on which version they're playing. The Pokémon League of Hoenn sits beyond Victory Road at Evergrande City. This winding cave tests trainers' strength one final time before allowing them to challenge the Elite Four. The dungeon features multiple floors connected by waterfalls and caves with powerful trainers positioned to drain your resources. Reaching the Pokémon League building represents a significant achievement, marking you as one of the few trainers each year capable of facing Hoenn's strongest competitors. The Elite Four of Hoenn each specialize in a specific type, their teams designed to exploit common weaknesses. Sydney opens with Dark-type specialists, testing whether you can handle their tricky movesets and abilities. Phoebe follows with Ghost types, her team built around both offensive and defensive strategies. Glacier brings Ice types, capable of devastating many Pokémon with super effective moves. Drake closes the Elite Four with Dragon types, massive powerhouses that can sweep unprepared teams. Steven Stone awaits in the Champions Chamber, his team built around Steel types with excellent defensive capabilities. His signature Pokémon, Metagross, represents one of the strongest non-legendary Pokémon in Generation 3. Steven's role extends beyond being champion. He collects rare stones throughout the region, and players encounter him multiple times during the journey, each meeting revealing more about his character and motivations. His search for understanding Mega Evolution's mysteries drives much of the expanded story in the remakes. Completing the main story unlocks the Battle Frontier in Emerald, an expansive facility featuring 7 unique battle facilities. Each facility tests different aspects of battling skill, from pure combat prowess to team composition to psychological endurance. Scott, a mysterious figure who observes your progress throughout the adventure, reveals himself as the Battle Frontier's creator and invites you to test your skills against the Frontier Brains, uniquely challenging opponents who run each facility. The Battle Tower focuses on traditional 3-on-3 single battles or 4-on-4 double battles, testing raw skill without gimmicks. The Battle Factory forces you to rent random Pokémon rather than using your own team, evaluating your ability to adapt to unfamiliar strategies. The Battle Palace removes direct control, with Pokémon acting according to their nature, testing whether you've raised them properly. The Battle Arena limits battles to 3 turns, forcing decisive action. The Battle Pyramid presents exploration challenges where visibility decreases as you progress deeper. The Battle Dome operates as an elimination tournament with visible opponent rosters. The Battle Pike challenges trainers to navigate rooms with random effects while conserving resources. Each facility awards battle points for successful challenges, which can be exchanged for valuable items and move tutors. Defeating the Frontier Brain of each facility earns symbols, bronze for the first victory and silver for the second. Collecting all 14 symbols represents one of the most challenging achievements in Pokémon history, requiring hundreds of battles and deep understanding of competitive strategies. The remakes, Pokémon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, released in November 2014 for the Nintendo 3DS, exactly 12 years after the original Ruby and Sapphire. These weren't simple graphical updates. Game Freak rebuilt Hoenn from the ground up, using the engine from Pokémon X and Y, transforming the region into a fully 3-dimensional world with dynamic camera angles and significantly enhanced visual fidelity. Primal Reversion, mentioned earlier, represented the marquee feature distinguishing these remakes from the originals. The ancient power contained in the red and blue orbs allowed Groudon and Kyogre to access their primal forms, exponentially increasing their power and danger. This mechanic tied directly into the expanded storyline about Mega Evolution's origins, connecting Hoenn's ancient past to the present-day mystery surrounding this phenomenon. The Delta episode, a post-game storyline exclusive to Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, continued the narrative after becoming champion. This quest involved investigating a meteoroid approaching the planet, with the potential to cause mass extinction if not stopped. Zinnia, a mysterious woman with knowledge of ancient history, guided you through this crisis. The episode climaxed with battling Deoxys, a mythical DNA Pokémon, high above the planet while riding Mega Rayquaza to intercept the meteoroid. This spectacular sequence showcased the 3DS's capabilities while providing satisfying closure to themes about the relationship between Hoenn and space. Mega Evolution played a central role in the remakes, with multiple new Mega Evolutions introduced specifically for Hoenn Pokémon. The 3 starter Pokémon all received Mega forms. Mega Sceptile gained the Dragon typing, transforming it into a Grass and Dragon type with the Lightning Rod ability. This change made Sceptile immune to electric attacks while giving it powerful Dragon-type moves to complement its Grass arsenal. Mega Blaziken had already appeared in Pokémon X and Y, but the remakes made it accessible through normal gameplay rather than requiring an event distribution. Its speed boost ability made it progressively faster each turn, eventually outspeeding almost everything, while hitting like a freight train with physical attacks boosted by its massive attack stat. Mega Swampert gained increased bulk and the Swift Swim ability, doubling its speed in rain. This turned it into a devastating sweeper when combined with rain-inducing teammates or abilities. Its design emphasized its muscular build, transforming it into an even more imposing physical threat than before. Other Hoenn natives received Mega forms as well. Mega Sableye gained the Magic Bounce ability, reflecting status moves and entry hazards back at opponents. Its design incorporated a massive gem shield that it hid behind defensively. Mega Mawile became Fairy and Steel type with the huge power ability, giving it one of the highest effective attack stats in the game despite its small size. Mega Altaria transformed from Dragon and flying to Dragon and Fairy, gaining the Pixelate ability that converted normal type moves into Fairy type and boosted their power. This made it an excellent special attacker with access to boosted Hyper Voice. Mega Salamence gained the Aerolate ability, converting normal moves to flying type, while its design incorporated aerodynamic features, making it look even more like a jet fighter. Mega Metagross, Steven's signature Pokémon, received Tough Claws as its ability, boosting all contact moves. Combined with its already impressive attack stat and excellent typing, Mega Metagross became one of the most threatening Pokémon in competitive play. Mega Sharpedo and Mega Camerupt provided Hoenn's villainous team leaders with powered-up versions of their signature Pokémon, though players could access these forms as well. The remakes introduced soaring, a new method of transportation. After obtaining the Eon Flute from the storyline, you could summon Latios or Latias and fly freely above Hoenn, landing on any previously visited route. This feature recalled Pokémon Yellow's flying mechanic, while implementing it with modern graphics and full 3-dimensional movement. Certain legendary Pokémon, including the Eon Pokémon themselves, could only be encountered through special soaring locations called Mirage Spots that appeared randomly. Secret bases returned from the original games, but were greatly expanded. Players could share their bases online through QR codes, visiting each other's customized spaces and battling the teams left there. This social feature encouraged creativity and competition, with some players designing elaborate puzzle bases while others optimized for training or item gathering. The DexNav, a new feature of the PokeNav Plus, revolutionized how players encountered wild Pokémon. It allowed you to see which species inhabited each route and track specific Pokémon to encounter them with beneficial characteristics like egg moves, higher level, or perfect IVs. This addition made team building more accessible while adding a collection element as you worked to complete each route's DexNav listings. The remakes adjusted numerous quality-of-life issues from the original games. The bike could be selected with a single button press, rather than navigating through the menu. TMs became infinite use as they had been since Generation 5. The experience share was redesigned to split experience among all party members, making team training more efficient. Contests received a complete overhaul, now featuring three-dimensional graphics and more interactive minigames. Your Pokémon could learn contest spectacular moves that created visual effects during performances. Cosplay Pikachu, a special Pikachu that could learn moves matching each contest category, became available after entering your first contest. The Battle Maison replaced Emerald's Battle Frontier as the post-game battle facility, offering single, double, triple, and rotation battles with increasing difficulty. While less diverse than the Battle Frontier's 7 facilities, the Battle Maison maintained the core challenge of extended win streaks against AI opponents using competitively viable teams. Hoenn's climate and geography created diverse biomes supporting hundreds of Pokémon species. The tropical southern areas around Littleroot and Oldale hosted grass, bug, and normal-type Pokémon adapted to warm, humid conditions. Route 101's tall grass concealed Wurmple, Poochyena, and Zigzagoon, common Pokémon that formed the foundation of early game teams. Moving north toward Petalburg revealed more species diversity. Ralts, the psychic-type Pokémon that Wally catches, appears rarely in Route 102's grass. This elusive Pokémon, capable of sensing emotions, eventually evolves into either Gardevoir or Gallade, depending on gender and evolution method. Catching a Ralts early requires patience, but rewards trainers with a powerful, special attacker. The ocean routes connecting Hoenn's islands support massive populations of water-type Pokémon. Tentacle swarms in the waters near Slateport, often appearing so frequently that trainers began associating surf travel with constant random encounters. Wingull circles overhead, diving to battle trainers or snatch food. Magikarp flops in shallow waters, while Wailmer surfaces in deeper areas. These aquatic species reflect the ocean's importance to Hoenn's ecosystem and economy. Route 119's weather patterns shift between rain and sun, demonstrating Hoenn's dynamic climate. This route is home to the Weather Institute, where researchers study meteorological patterns across the region. Castform, a Pokémon whose form changes based on weather, can be obtained from the scientists at the Weather Institute as a gift. Its ability, Forecast, transforms it into water, fire, or ice type depending on rain, sun, or hail, making it a living representation of meteorological phenomena. The Safari Zone near Lily Cove contains Pokémon unavailable elsewhere in Hoenn. The facility operates on the classic Safari Zone model, where players receive limited Safari balls and steps, needing to make every encounter count. Heracross, Pinsir, and other rare species inhabit these protected grounds, though catching them requires luck and strategies given the mechanics limiting control over battles. Diving introduced underwater exploration, revealing submerged caves and trenches teeming with marine life. Clample, Chinchou, and Relicanth populate these depths, adapted to high-pressure environments and low-light conditions. Relicanth, in particular, represents a living fossil, unchanged for millions of years, connecting to the themes about ancient history and preservation. The Hoenn Pokédex includes numerous Pokémon with unique type combinations. Sableye, as Dark and Ghost type, had no weaknesses in Generation 3, since Fairy types hadn't been introduced yet. Sharpedo combined Water and Dark, giving it offensive pressure through Stab on powerful moves from both types. Flygon merged Ground and Dragon, creating excellent type coverage and useful resistances. Regional variants of the Magnemite and Nosepass lines could be found in New Mauville and Granite Cave, respectively. These steel and electric types provided defensive options for teams lacking bulk. Absol, the disaster Pokémon, appeared on Route 120. Its dark typing and high attack, making it a devastating physical attacker, despite unfortunate associations with catastrophes it merely predicted rather than caused. Fossil Pokémon continued the tradition started in Kanto and Johto. Players choosing between the root fossil and claw fossil in the desert received either Lileep or Anorith, ancient species preserved in stone and restored through advanced technology. Lileep evolved into Cradily, a rock and grass type with excellent special defense. Anorith became Armaldo, a rock and bug type, favoring physical attacks. Both represented prehistoric creatures that once dominated Hoenn's ancient seas. Feebas, one of the rarest Pokémon in any region, could only be found by fishing in specific tiles on Route 119. The tiles changed based on the Dewford trendy phrase, making Feebas hunting an exercise in patience and geographical documentation. Trainers often spent hours fishing every tile in the route, hoping to encounter the plain-looking fish. The payoff came from evolving Feebas into Milotic, considered one of the most beautiful Pokémon in existence, through maxing its beauty stat and leveling it up. The Hoenn legendary Pokémon extend beyond the Weather Trio and legendary golems. Latias and Latios, the Eon Pokémon, roam Hoenn after defeating the Elite Four. These dragon and psychic types avoid capture by fleeing every battle, forcing trainers to track them across the region using the Pokédex. The Soul Dew they can hold increases special attack and special defense, though this item is banned in official competitions due to its power. Jirachi, the Wish Pokémon, and Deoxys, the DNA Pokémon, were distributed through special events in the original games. Jirachi sleeps for 1,000 years, awakening for 7 days when a comet appears in the sky. Deoxys arrived on a meteorite from space, its DNA mutated by cosmic radiation into 4 different forms emphasizing attack, defense, speed, or balance. These mythical Pokémon represented the cutting edge of Generation 3's distribution methods, requiring attendance at real-world events or special promotional merchandise. The cultural impact of Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald cannot be overstated. While Ruby and Sapphire used traditional link cables for local trading and battling, Emerald became the first Hoenn game to support the wireless adapter alongside the standard cable connection, offering local wireless communication within a limited range. The Generation 3 games laid important groundwork that would influence future connectivity features. The double battle format introduced in Hoenn became standard for competitive Pokémon battles, fundamentally changing how the series approached strategy and team building. Hoenn's music score showcased the Game Boy Advance's improved audio capabilities. Trumpets featured prominently in many tracks, creating a brassy, energetic sound that defined the region's identity. The rival battle theme, gym leader battle theme, and various legendary encounter themes have remained fan favorites for over 2 decades. The low health beeping that replaced battle music when a Pokémon's HP dropped below 25% became one of the most recognizable and stress-inducing sounds in gaming. The Battle Frontier's various facility themes demonstrated remarkable variety given the hardware limitations. The Battle Factory's theme conveyed industrial efficiency, while the Battle Pike's music created suspense and uncertainty. The Frontier Brain Battle theme elevated tension, signaling that you faced an opponent far above regular difficulty. In conclusion, the Hoenn region represents a high point in Pokémon game design. It balanced tradition with innovation, retaining the core formula while introducing mechanics that would define the franchise for generations to come. The mythological depth of its legendary Pokémon, the environmental diversity of its geography, the mechanical complexity of its double battles and weather systems, and the post-game challenges of the Battle Frontier combined to create an unforgettable experience. Whether you first explored Hoenn in the original Game Boy Advance games or discovered it through the 3-dimensional remakes, the region leaves a lasting impression. Its themes about the relationship between humanity and nature, the importance of balance, and the dangers of trying to control forces beyond our understanding resonate across cultural boundaries. Hoenn taught us that power without wisdom leads to catastrophe, that opposing forces often need each other to create equilibrium, and that even the mightiest legendary Pokémon answer to higher principles. So as you drift towards sleep, imagine yourself standing in Little Root Town at the start of a new adventure. Professor Birch is calling for help as a wild Poochyena chases him through tall grass. You're about to make a choice that will determine your partner for an incredible journey across a region shaped by ancient titans. The future awaits, filled with gym battles, legendary encounters, and friendships forged through shared struggles. Rest well, trainer. Tomorrow brings new challenges in the land where the sun shines bright and the oceans stretch to the horizon. Sweet dreams of Hoenn. If you enjoyed this journey through the Hoenn region, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps create more content like this, exploring the deep lore and fascinating details of the Pokémon world. Drop a comment below sharing your favorite Hoenn memory, whether it's catching your first legendary Pokémon, completing the Battle Frontier, or simply wandering through Fortree City's canopy walkways. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep exploring the wonderful world of Pokémon.